My name is Orlando Vasquez. I own Phaze One Skate Shop for 30 years. Originally, I was born in New York, and my parents, they were Cuban immigrants, immigrated to New York, and they were there for like a little bit, and we moved back down to Miami in like around 71, and I grew up in Miami all the way to 91 when I decided to come to school up here, and I loved it. Yeah. They're the communities really what got me back into skateboarding. They were like just so welcoming here in Tallahassee. I mean, being from Miami, everybody seems to have like some kind of chip on their shoulder, or like, you know what I mean? Just like weird vibes. So when I got back up here, actually I'd quit basically because my parents were like, you can't do that anymore. Back in the 80s, if you were skating past your 20s, there was something wrong with you. You know what I mean? That was like a norm now, which we see now, like people like Tony Hawk and other people that like maintain, a high level of skateboarding at their age, But, so when I got up here, I met up with these kids and I saw them, actually they were skating at FSU on campus, like the Moore Auditorium, and they were skating this bench. I'm like, why did I ever quit, I felt like I had gotten guilted out of it, and I think I just started calling my friends and started getting stuff sent up here. And little by little, a friend of mine who I met at a hip hop bar up here called the Milk Bar, it was one of the best DJs up here. His name was Andre Prine, DJ 360. Yeah, Andre would be like, hey man, all this stuff, you just sell it, you know what I mean? As soon as you get it, you should make a store. And he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, we should do that. And then a week later, Andre definitely like pulled the trigger and, and signed us up. And I was like, oh my God, this is like legit. So nothing, I just told my parents, I'm like, I need $1,000. So this whole place has started with $1,000. My friend Andre Prine and my roommate and good friend Andre Sanchez too. To stem from there, like in the early 90s when in those days skateboarding was super outlaw. So, it was a different time than how it is now. I'm just glad to see how it is. Like most people are like, okay, skateboarding, back in the day I was like, no, you're like the scum of the earth. So it's great that it's like, people have finally evolved and made it more inclusive for everybody in this community to, feel included finally. I can't even remember the name of the mall, but it's where the Chuck E. Cheese is and the other theater. Okay, it's in that mall. So we were there, like I was saying, 92 for about a year. The landlord didn't like kids going around skating in the plaza and stuff. I'm like, well, they have to get to the shop because that's how I pay your rent, you know what I mean? So we looked over here on Gain Street, and Gain Street was great because, I also grew up like, South Beach before South Beach became what South Beach is now, and it was just wide open for like youth culture to do, what they wanted, parties, rent warehouses, do shows, it was great. So we moved there, and we were there at 439 Gaines for, from 94 all the way to, I think, 2012, before the building was bought. Ended up moving by the Shell station there on 506, for years. We were there all the way to the pandemic. And as soon as the pandemic happened, it just gave us a break to get down here because we knew the park was going to be happening. We needed to do something. And luckily, it was just like, hey, I got a spot at Railroad Square. I'm like, this is awesome, because I always wanted to be part of Railroad Square anyway, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a nice little community here, always. Since I've been here, like coming since the 90s, it's the coolest spot, And it opened up, and it's been great. A couple of the older heads decided to make the Skaters Union, and then basically Dave became like, the spokesperson for the whole skate community, while I just organized everybody to get petitions, and petition, the city and have their parents call, because, that's how it was for like many years, because the parents weren't going. They weren't caring that kids were up there because, most kids didn't vote. So, but as soon as I was trying to tell them, hey, if you don't want your kid to go to jail anymore, have a safe place like every other facility, every other sport is provided in this town, start coming to these meetings. And, I think that's one of the greatest things like Tallahassee did from the get-go, was involve every skater, get all the input, have meetings, of what they wanted to see out there, And even though the first skate park that's built out there, it's kind of bare bones, because it was like one of the first skate parks. Actually, it is the first public skate park, modern one, in Florida. And that literally opened like 20 years ago this year, as well. That's what I love too, is like looking at it now, I'm like, great, 20 years later, we got another park finally, but that's just how it is. It goes slow. A little later on, they started talking about, redoing this area right here. And the guys at Blueprint were talking about, making it skatable, because, as transportation, people use it as well. And later it turned into, it's like, hey, we want to do something unique so that Tallahassee is gonna, it's like when people see it, it's like they know it's Tallahassee. So I was like, well, you guys are on FAMU way, maybe we can make a skate park with a snake run, because like the longboard crew, those guys wanted like a little more more transitions they can pump or whatever. So I was like, maybe you can make a snake one off FAMU Way with a rattler on it, because you know, I feel like FAMU's always underrepresented as far as like university in this town. Don't get me wrong, I mean, I love them all. Anybody who's making kids smarter, you know, I'm for that. So, but I just love the fact that they're, you know, that concept was thrown out there and everybody got it together and got it to Tim, and then Tim and these guys came up with this, and it's just like, I don't know, it's a, you know, it's a beautiful thing to just have this abstract concept and just see it like flesh out the ways what it has. You know, I'm just really, really happy for these kids. So. It is a store, but it's been so much for so many more people than just a store. You know what I'm saying? It's been like kind of like a, you know, a sanctuary for like a lot of kids to come out that had troubles or, you know, were going through stuff and knew they could always come here and have a place, like a safe place to hang, you know? So that's the beauty of it, you know? The fact that the store part of it and all the other, like, you know, the business side or whatever, that's, you know, it's all cool. It's just part of like having a, you know, keep up with this rat race. But the beauty of it is like, you know, knowing that a bunch of kids, you know, will tell you, it's like, man, you saved me, you know, or, yeah, really, you know, sorry, it gets me, but, you know, that's, you know, that's what this shop is and what a lot of other shops are. You know, they don't have that, you know, they don't have basically a whole crew of people that definitely look out for you, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I'm just forever grateful, you know, to this whole community, especially through the hardest years, because, you know, a lot of kids have criminal records and they were just trying to skateboard, you know what I mean? So, I'm just happy for this next generation not to have to go through any of that stuff, you know, that the past one did. So, and you know, to take care of that park and respect it, because so many people, you know, are not going to get to enjoy it, but are happy to know that you will, you know. So, you know, I hope kids see that, you know.